Hello, everyone. My name is Tarek Rukab. I am a 26-year Microsoft certified trainer with ExitCertified and Excel instructor-led training. Today, I would like to briefly go over some of the certification roadmaps in the Microsoft Azure world. And there's plenty of them between the administrative side and the development side. So in this presentation here, we're primarily going to focus on the administrative side of Azure and some of the certifications that we can achieve. And we have four levels here if we take a look. We have a fundamentals level, we have an associate level, expert, and specialty levels. Now, the fundamentals are typically one-day classes that give you a little foundation, kind of introduce you to some of the concepts and some of the terminology. And then the idea there is to get a foundation to build on. So from there, you might want to follow it up with maybe an associate course or possibly even a specialty one as you work your way to expert level. Now, the associate courses are more for administrators, users that are in the trenches, doing day-to-day operations, whether it's help desk, admins, or even, enterprise level or global administrator level. Now, the idea here, these classes are anywhere between 3 days and 5 days, depending on what class you attend. And as an example, AZ-900 is a one-day fundamentals course that just introduces you to Azure Cloud. So there's an AZ-104, AZ-104 that would be a 4-day class to follow up and go a lot more in depth with the topics that we learn in AZ-900 as an example, okay? And then there's courses that focus specifically on networking or security, and we'll take a look at some of those courses, or possibly a hybrid environment. Okay, so at some point you might want to get to the expert level, which a lot of times will require really more than one exam. So as an example, the fundamentals course are really optional exams that you can take. And then from there, let's say you do attend the AZ-104, the 4-day class, and you follow up with that exam, then you immediately get certified as an Azure Administrator Associate, right? Just one exam. However, the expert exam typically requires 2, and depending on which ones which ones you're trying to achieve, there's prerequisites involved, okay? And we're going to take a look at that and what you have to do to achieve that end result. And then finally, we have specialty, which is really kind of focused on certain areas of Azure. So as an example, one of the main specialty courses on the admin side would be Azure Virtual Desktop, which is essentially remote desktop services in the cloud and VDI, virtual desktop infrastructure. Okay, so we're going to take a look at all the above here. And before we start, Microsoft does have a PowerPoint deck here, and it's readily available on the internet there. And I have the URL listed below here. So you'll see https://aka.ms/Azure Train Cert Deck. Now, if we click on this, it's just a PowerPoint presentation that will kind of go a lot more in depth with some of the certifications. And they kind of mention them all here, and you'll notice there's links. And matter of fact, let me move this over to the right to kind of get that out of the way. And we'll go full screen here. Okay, so these are all links. So depending on what certification you might want to take a look at. And then from there, various links as well. And it will go a lot more in depth, a lot more details here to help you find what certification is right for you and which path you need to pursue to achieve that. Okay, so I at least want to share that just real quick. And like I said, it's just available on the internet there. So just make note of that little URL right there at the bottom of the PowerPoint. And take a look at this when you get a chance, please. Okay, so from there, we're going to take a look at the foundational level first, which are typically the fundamental courses. And if we take a look, we have AZ-900, which is Azure Fundamentals. This is a one-day class here, perfect to start up. And you know what? You don't have to have any background in the cloud to attend this class. It's going to introduce you what infrastructure as a service is, platform as a service, and software as a service. It's going to tell you what cloud is. It's going to go through some of the terminology. And then from there, it's going to introduce you to many of the great resources that we can deploy and manage in Azure, from virtual networks, virtual machines, storage accounts, web apps, containerized apps. We can then look at Azure Monitor and monitor these great resources that we're deploying. Okay, so really good class there, but a one day to get that foundation. And once you get that foundation, the idea is to build on top of it, okay? Now, there's also a AI fundamentals course as well. And I have to admit, the artificial intelligence, for the most part, the fundamentals class, you do not have to have any programming background whatsoever, but there are many follow-up courses on this one that may require a programming background. Okay, so I'm going to kind of throw that out there. But the fundamentals course does not. It's going to introduce you to what artificial intelligence is, what tools you can use to implement it in your environment, the various ways, and learn about machine learning and some of the other technologies for artificial intelligence. Okay, so great class, and big fan of it myself. Okay, so once we get that foundation laid, right, we're going to want to build on that foundation. We want to continue our education. So let's take a look at some of the additional courses that are at the associate level. Okay, so the fundamental courses do have exams as well, and technically they're optional. Okay, however, whenever you're certified, it will give you another layer of confidence. And matter of fact, it's proven that over 90% of the people that are certified are a lot more comfortable and a lot more confident in their decisions they make and their deployments that they do in real world. Okay, so to follow up, we have a bunch of associate level courses. And like I said, some of them can be, 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, just depending on the class. So we have Azure Administrator that is AZ-104. This is a 4-day class, 1 exam, and you get the Azure Administrator Associate certification. Now, this 4-day class is a perfect follow-up to the AZ-900. AZ-900 will introduce you to a lot of the great topics and terminology and features, and then this course will go a lot further in depth, and you'll do hands-on with it as well. So we lecture, you follow up every single chapter with at least 1 lab to drive the point home. Okay, and the labs, I think I mentioned this already, but if not, the labs start on the very first day. They're available for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Now, we do them in class, but they're also at your disposal for continuing education purposes as well. And they're actually available for 6 months, starting on the very first day of class. Okay, so great class there. Matter of fact, one of my favorites. Now, if security is what you're leaning towards, okay, I need to focus more on security, not everything in Azure. So the AZ-500 is a 4-day class that focuses more on the security side of Azure with Microsoft Entra ID, with identity protection, multi-factor authentication, privileged identity management. From there, we'll also help you secure your web apps in Microsoft Entra ID and Azure in particular, secure SQL databases, storage accounts. You'll focus on Microsoft Defender for Cloud quite a bit in there. And then it actually closes up the class with Microsoft Sentinel, if you're familiar with that. And that is a feature that is available in Azure. And matter of fact, it is one of the very first, if not the very first, cloud-based SIEM system. Fantastic technology. Now, also, if networking is your cup of tea, then there is a 3-day class called Azure Network Engineer Associate, and basically 3 days it focuses nothing on nothing but networking. So you get in there and it starts out easy where you deploy a couple of VNets and you're going to peer them, but it's also going to get into some advanced networking such as ExpressRoute, virtual WAN. It gets into load balancers as well. So you'll end up deploying a couple of load balancers, layer 4, layer 7 load balancers, and then also how to secure certain resources for networking purposes as well. So if you're familiar like with service endpoints or private link and private endpoint services, it gets into that as well. And each one of these are just 1 exam. So if you just take the AZ-104, then you're an Azure Administrator. If you take just the AZ-500, then you are an Azure Security Engineer Associate. If you just take the AZ-700, then you get that cert directly as well, Azure Network Engineer Associate. Okay, so each one of these are just 1 exam. Okay, and then there's also a Azure AI Engineer. Now this is AI 102, and I believe this is a 5-day class, but this one, well, it will have programming in there, a little bit of .NET, a little bit of Python, and I am not a programmer myself, so I kind of lean more on the admin side, just to let you know. Okay, but that is a class that will give you the Azure AI Engineer Associate. Okay, so pretty much each one of these require a single exam. Now I say pretty much, because as we get to the bottom, that will change just a little bit. Okay, so next we have Security Operations Analyst Associate. Now you'll see this one, I gave a brief description on each one of them, but this one's going to go, it's also security related, but it doesn't just focus on Azure. So it's going to be a little bit of Azure, but also Microsoft 365, Microsoft 365 Defender, Microsoft Purview. And if you're familiar with those, there's quite a bit in there as far as insider risk management, data loss protection, e-discovery, classification, great class. And then this one also goes a lot more in depth with Microsoft Sentinel. So if Sentinel is something that you've been working on and you're still trying to learn a little bit more in depth, that's going to be the course for you. Okay. And I mean, quite a bit of Microsoft Sentinel in that one. Okay. So that is going to give you a security operations analysis associate, same thing, just one exam. Okay. And then we also have SC300, this is Identity and Access Administrator. This also kind of focuses on security, but this one will go a lot more in depth with the identity side. So you will take a very in-depth look at identity protection in Microsoft Entra ID, privileged identity management, entitled management as well. Okay, so also another great class, but it also will get into securing like your virtual networks and DDoS protection and things like that as well. Okay, but also another one exam. Okay, so which ones require more than one exam? Well, the very last one here that we have in number 7, you will notice that there is a Windows Server Hybrid Administrator Associate. Okay, and the idea here, this focuses a lot on the admin side, but instead of just cloud, it's also going to focus on the admin side of on-prem. So if you are familiar with Active Directory domains, domains and server or Active Directory domain services, excuse me, configuring users and groups, group policy, organizational units, LDAP, Kerberos, all that good stuff, along with Azure Cloud, right? And bringing the two together, that's going to be the certification for you. And I do not have all of these. I'm currently trying to achieve them, but I do have, I think, most of them. So I do have the AZ104, the AZ500, the AZ700, and the AZ800 and AZ801. And I do have the SC300 as well. So the SC200 is on my list to achieve sometime this year. And artificial intelligence is something I'm also working on slowly but surely. More the admin side, if you will, but nonetheless, it's new technology, but it is fantastic. So I'm eager to learn more about that myself. Okay, so that's our fundamental levels, and of course the associate levels. So now let's go to the expert level, or sorry, these specialty levels first. Thought the expert levels was coming next there. Okay, so as far as specialty level certifications, there are more than one. However, on the admin side, pretty much Azure Virtual Desktop. Okay, and this is a 4-day class, fantastic class as well. Another one of my favorites, matter of fact, to teach. So this one, you focus on Azure Virtual Desktop, which again is essentially remote desktop services in the cloud. Okay, so this is basically deploying what they call Azure Virtual Desktop Host pools. They're designed for multi-session, meaning multiple users logging in. We control what apps we deploy to these Azure Virtual Desktop hosts, and we can also configure profile management, networking, and storage solutions. So a great class. Also requires one exam, and this will give you the Azure Virtual Desktop Specialty certification. Okay, so one exam here as well. And then finally, we get to the expert level certifications. Now, for the most part, again, we're focused on the admin side, so do please keep that in mind because there is more to the certification arena, if you will, right? Especially on the programming and DevOps side. Okay, so we have really 2 of them here that we can kind of focus on more on the admin side. So you'll notice that we have Azure Solutions Architect. This is AZ-305, okay, and this is a class that you will follow up with. So this one actually will require that you take the AZ-104 first. So you do have to get your Microsoft Certified Azure Administrator Associate first. Now from there, you will then attend, well, you should attend the AZ-305 class and then follow it up with the AZ-305 exam, and that is going to give you your expert level certification in Azure. And this would be considered an Azure Solutions Architect certification. Okay, so that also goes more into design. So instead of just, oh, what is a virtual network? Well, how do we design these VNets? How do we design this virtual WAN and Azure landing zone and all that? Okay, so great class there as well. Okay, but that one, you want to do incrementally. You don't want to just dive right into the deep end, right? So if Azure's new to you, you would most likely want to start with the fundamentals and the associate level. And then once you start to feel good with the associate level, then, what's the next tier? Well, I want to be an expert, right? And that's where you would consider this class here. There also is another expert one for security, and this is also another one that I plan on achieving hopefully this year as well. Okay, so we have cybersecurity architect expert here. And this one also is a expert level, and it will require a prerequisite as well. So you want to basically take the AZ-500, which is the Security Engineer Associate, and then follow it up with the SC100. And that's going to go a lot more in depth with some of the security features that we discussed between AZ-500, the SC200, and the SC300, okay? All right, so if we kind of take a look at this one in a little bit more detail, just to come to the next PowerPoint here, you'll notice that you'll see Microsoft Certified Azure Security Engineer Associate. Okay, so that's the AZ-500. We have Microsoft Certified Identity and Access Administrator Associate. That's the SC300. And then the Microsoft Certified Security Operations Analysis Associate. That's the SC200. Now, remember, that's one that kind of covers a little bit of Microsoft 365 Purview and Microsoft 365 Defender along with Azure, and a lot of Microsoft Sentinel in there as well. So you'll see or. Okay, so I have to take one of these, or we have to take one of these and the SC100 to get the Cybersecurity Architect Expert certification. Okay, so that is the Microsoft roadmap on the admin side once again to achieve Microsoft certifications, and I hope that this will help out in pursuing your certifications and your continuing education purposes. Thank you so much for joining me here today. I really appreciate it, and hope to see you in a class sometime soon with us to follow up and continue your educational journey. Thank you.